In December of 2014, college football history was made for all the wrong reasons. The UAB Blazers announced that they would be discontinuing football at the university, which was the first time an FBS school had made this decision since Pacific in 1995. Although UAB wasn't a powerhouse, this was still a program that had players and staff members who put in a lot of work every day to make it all happen. And just like that, the lives of everyone involved with the program were changed forever. But fast forward to present day 2022, and UAB is back playing football again at the highest level it's ever played. So the question is, how did UAB go from not playing football to restarting their program and now making a bowl game in 5 straight seasons? This is the death and rebirth of UAB football. Leading up to the big decision, this was a program that was very young, but didn't have much success on or off the field. The Blazers started playing football in 1991 and quickly jumped from a Division III school to FBS level, eventually joining Conference USA in 1999. UAB would play at Legion Field, which was a large stadium off campus used for the Olympics that could fit over 70,000 people. Being a part of their early transition was head coach Watson Brown, and he would end up being the Blazers head coach for over a decade. In his tenure, there were only 2 seasons where they finished with less than 5 wins, coming in 1998 and 2006. The 2 most notable years from his tenure came in 2000 and 2004, both which featured 7-win seasons. In 2000, the Blazers didn't make it to a bowl game, but this season saw one of the biggest wins in program history, when UAB defeated LSU 13-10 on the road in front of 85,000 people, a game that showed this university was on its way up. It wasn't until the 2004 season where UAB would see more program history. For the first time ever, the program made a bowl game and was ranked after a 5-1 start, coming in at number 24. But they would only manage to win 2 more games the rest of the way before losing their bowl game against Hawaii to finish at 7-5. This time period featured a lot of talent on the field and even sent a couple guys to the league, but none was arguably bigger than wide receiver Roddy White, who eventually became a first-round pick and a 4-time Pro Bowler with the Atlanta Falcons. After Watson Brown left, wins on the field would be hard to come by. UAB tried to hire Jimbo Fisher to be their next head coach, and they had the contract all written up and were ready to get Jimbo introduced as the next man up, but the deal fell apart after the Regents of Alabama shut it down. Jimbo would go on to get hired as the offensive coordinator at Florida State before eventually becoming a head coach himself, and the rest is history. Ultimately replacing Brown would be Neil Callaway, who previously coached at Alabama and Georgia and was in charge for 5 seasons from 2007 to 2011, but just couldn't get any momentum going. 2009 was the best season in this time frame, where UAB went 5-7 led by quarterback Joe Webb, who eventually made it to the NFL himself. Neil's teams unfortunately were not the best defensively and allowed an average of 30 points a game in each of his 5 seasons. There were some bad and uninspiring losses in his tenure. UAB lost 70-14 at Southern Miss in 2008, and then 49-10 against Tulane and 59-14 against Marshall, both coming in 2011. Among the positives in his tenure included establishing winning streaks over rivals Memphis and Southern Miss, and in his final season, the program came close to upsetting Tennessee and Mississippi State. However, the reality set in that this job at UAB wasn't going to be an easy one for whoever was in charge. They had the smallest recruiting budget in all of the conference, poor facilities, and had high entrance requirements in comparison to other members in conference. Fan attendance was also at its lowest it had been since 2002, and to make matters worse, the school's board of trustees rejected plans to build a $75 million on-campus football stadium since there wasn't enough on the field to like, so UAB would have to survive with what they had. Practice facilities that used to be dentist offices and a stadium that was 30 minutes away from campus. Moving forward, UAB hired Arkansas assistant Garrick McGee to be their next head coach, but he wouldn't last more than 2 seasons. More defensive struggles and disappointing losses followed, but none was bigger than a 35-point loss in 2013 to a Southern Miss squad that had a 23-game losing streak coming into the game. And this game had signified how down this program was. After the 2013 season, things were about to change for the team in a big way. Garrick McGee left UAB to accept the offensive coordinator position at Louisville, a move down in positions that doesn't happen often. To replace McGee, UAB hired Jacksonville State head coach Bill Clark to lead the program. 2014 was actually a promising year for the team, as they would go 6-6, avenging that embarrassing loss to Southern Miss to end the year, and they had a top 40 offense and became bowl eligible for the first time since 2004. Unfortunately, they weren't invited to a bowl game, but that wasn't the biggest of their worries. In December of 2014, news struck that UAB was officially discontinuing football immediately. It was a stunning choice as they were the first FBS school since Pacific in 1995 to make a decision like this, and normally schools will drop down to the FCS before discontinuing football altogether. It was devastating to a community that cared about its football team, but also to a team that had hardworking individuals that made this team what it was. Of course, there were some bad losses on the field, but this was a team that looked like they were building something. And these players who came to the school to play a game they loved, the coaches and staff who worked in a game they loved and to support their families, all had that stripped away from them in an instant that caught everyone off guard. About 50 players transferred away from the program in order to play somewhere else, including running back Jordan Howard, and this program would soon have little to nothing. Even with all the struggles at the school, this was a decision that seemed inevitable from within. UAB President Ray Watts had a study conducted the year prior to review athletic finances, and the conclusion came that UAB would have to drop some sports at the university, with football being one of them. The university said the difference over the next 5 years would be an extra $49 million with football, which included a projected $22 million needed for football facilities and upgrades, although there were conflicting reports on how much money UAB would actually lose with football, if any. But was money the only issue? Maybe not. Apparently, the University of Alabama Board of Trustees didn't care as much for UAB football as they maybe should have. As we know, the board turned down plans to give UAB much better facilities for their football team, and that also would have given them a stadium closer to campus. Their reason was that it was the wrong time for it, even though a stadium on campus would likely increase fan attendance. Head coach Bill Clark even helped to create a plan for a new $10 million facility funded through private donations, and even though it got the green light, it never got approval from the board. Only a few months later though, the board gave approval for a multi-million-dollar soccer complex. Even a local business had offered to replace the practice turf at UAB for free, and it was shut down by Alabama trustee Finest St. John. St. John was also the same person who believed that a medical school like UAB should just be a medical school and not focus on football at all. You could even point back to the Jimbo Fisher contract getting turned down as another event that went down that didn't go in UAB's favor. The biggest struggle for UAB was that since it was a University of Alabama, a lot of their decisions had to be approved by a board and by regents of Alabama. And competing with the Alabama Crimson Tide and Auburn Tigers was tough, and any way to preserve and increase the support for those two was taken. And even though this appeared to be a decision that all came to be in a short time, that may not have been the case either. In a leaked Twitter conversation between former head coach Garrick McGee and a fan, McGee revealed that he knew that UAB had a plan to shut down the program before he left. As quoted, the fan said that somebody needs to call out the UAB administration for sabotaging their own football program, and also said, was there a lack of commitment from the UAB athletic director? UAB's athletic department is wasting money, to which McGee replied simply to both with, you're getting close to the real problem. So, was UAB football ever set up to succeed from its time in Division 1? Who knows the real answer? They had everything go against them, and the only concrete thing was that UAB football was gone for the foreseeable future. In the months after the decision, many people worked to get the program back. Pressure was constantly applied every day in order to get the program back. From the students to staff to former players, every moment counted and every moment was a battle. Finally, after a lot of effort and donations raised by the community, UAB announced in 2015 that football would be returning to the school for the 2017 season and beyond. To add on to football returning to the school, the team also got brand new facilities which were unveiled in 2017. The program would also once again compete in Conference USA immediately, which was an added bonus. But now, even more work had to be done in order to field a competitive team. The program had to get players and staff in a little over a year and a half. But Bill Clark would once again be the head coach moving forward, and he would continue to build on what he accomplished in that 2014 season. He received a lot of interest from other schools, but ultimately stayed at the university due to the future that might come, one that would include wins, new facilities, and the school's own stadium. Along with him, he brought defensive line coach David Reeves to be his defensive coordinator, and his impact on the team was felt in huge ways, and he's been one of the top assistants in all of the sport. The roster would have to be filled out quickly after missing 2 recruiting cycles, and the NCAA granted UAB with many waivers in order to do so. Some guys on the team prior had elected to remain at the university, so they would fill out the rest of the roster. Among those guys included cornerback Darius Williams, but many additions to the team would be transfers, so this team had experience on their squad. In preparation for the season, the staff would spend the entire week watching film and game planning for one Conference USA team at a time, and then scrimmage on Saturdays just like a regular season was going on. That preparation and experience definitely helped, as on the field, UAB quickly made their impact. Their first game marked a triumphant return, defeating Alabama A&M in the opener and setting the tone for the rest of the way. They had an astonishing 8 wins in that 2017 campaign, with 2 of their losses being by just 1 possession. They would go 6-2 in conference play, coming up 1 game shy of being in the conference championship game, but would eventually make it to a bowl game for the second time in program history. The Ohio Bobcats ultimately defeated them to put the Blazers at 8-5 to end the year, but the fact that the program was back on the field and was better than ever before was a massive accomplishment. UAB built on that success for 2018, where they went 11-3 and had one of the best defenses in all of the FBS, allowing an average of 17 points a game, which was good enough for 7th best in the nation. They became the 3rd team in conference history to have 3 shutouts in a season and had 16 players with at least 1 sack. After an early season loss to Coastal Carolina, UAB reeled off 8 straight victories, among the best being 52-3 over UTSA and 49-0 over Rice. They would drop their final 2 games of the season, including to Middle Tennessee State, but they won their division and earned a spot in the conference championship game for the first time ever. The Blazers marched into the championship game against Middle Tennessee State, a team who beat them just the game prior by 24. After trailing early on and looking like another blowout was in place, UAB fought back and took the lead 27-25 with a late field goal before getting a late stop on downs to secure their first ever conference title. With this regular season success, they earned a spot in a bowl game against Northern Illinois, and they didn't leave a doubt with a 37-13 win. A little over 4 years to that day, UAB went from having nothing to becoming conference champs and one of college football's biggest success stories, and they weren't done yet. The success story continued in 2019 as UAB finished at 9-5 with another conference championship game and a bowl berth, but unfortunately, this time both ended in losses. Again, their defense was one of the best in the conference and the nation, as they once again ranked in the top 10 in total defense. Quickly, David Reeves and the players were laying the foundation and establishing a reputation that UAB would be a tough team defensively, and one that would be able to get off the field on 3rd downs, and one that could constantly get to the quarterback. Areas where they also ranked in the top 10 nationally, a streak that would last from 2018 to 2020. And that 2020 season was perhaps the most impressive to date. Despite having a shortened season, UAB made the most of it, going 6-3, winning their division despite being predicted to finish 5th in the preseason polls, and they would play in their 3rd straight conference title. This time around, they got the job done over Marshall, marking their 2nd conference championship in 3 years. Unfortunately, they couldn't add more hardware as their bowl game got canceled, but more wins were on the horizon. Starting in 2021, UAB would be playing in a brand new stadium, the Protective Stadium, one that was just a few miles from campus and would seat over 47,000 people. This was a huge statement for the program and one that officially cemented the commitment for the team moving forward. This past 2021 season, UAB was once again competitive, something that is now the norm. The Blazers went 9-4 and were much improved offensively, and although they didn't make it to the conference title, they had some impressive results, including a narrow loss to a 12-win UTSA squad and another bowl victory, this time coming over ranked BYU in the Independence Bowl. And they also saw defensive end Alex Wright get drafted in the 3rd round to the Cleveland Browns. Now, here we are in present day 2022, and a lot has occurred at the university. A once disappointing situation that eventually evaporated has now turned into one of the most consistent winners in the FBS with a stellar defense and great coaching. A new norm has been accomplished at the university that once struggled to get 3 wins in a season and had the worst facilities in the conference. They are now a school that competes every year for conference titles, bowl berths, and double-digit win seasons that can get guys to the next level. The keys to the success on the field has been their trenches. UAB has consistently ranked in the top of the nation in terms of sacks and tackles for loss, and for 3 straight seasons they were in the top 10 in the nation in these 2 categories, along with total defense. Their offensive line play as of recent has been improved, and this has allowed the offense to become much more dangerous, and they are one of the best group of 5 schools when it comes to running the football, and have been since they returned. They could have another potential high draft pick in running back Dwayne McBride, who ran for over 1,300 yards in his sophomore campaign. But off the field, what has UAB meant to the community? Everything. Birmingham rallied around its football team in its lowest moment, and because of that, they are reaping the benefits. UAB being great has coincided with the entire city seeing a resurgence, whether it be through businesses, local economic status, or education, all of which have seen an improvement, and it is a city that is continuing to grow. Mayor Randall Woodfin put it best. Now, this team has shown the entire nation what Birmingham is all about: resilience, teamwork, and perseverance. The story of UAB football will be one that is told for a while. But, as always, only time will tell how good this UAB football program can continue to be moving forward. This has been the death and rebirth of UAB football. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you guys next time.